might be too
Hey guys,
strung out on
welcome to the show.
compliments.
I'm Travis.
Overdose on confidence.
And today we're going to be doing our 2017 NFL preview for the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, last year they had lots of injuries to a lot of key playmakers, and they ended up, I think it was the first time they didn't make the playoffs in a long time.
I think it was like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, so going into 2017, they have lots of needs they need to fill. What were some of their big off-season needs?
Well, I think their biggest need was probably the running back position, because they've kind of gone, running back by committee, or used the hot hand with Gio Bernard and Jeremy Hill these past couple of years. So I think they needed to get a guy that could really solidify that running back position and just be the guy for them. They really haven't really had that to complement Andy Dalton in that passing game.
Yeah, both guys have been very inconsistent at the running back position, and Jeremy Hill's kind of been a first-round bust. They were really expecting big things from him, and he had a great rookie season, but other than that, he's really kind of fallen off.
Yeah, he's kind of been that guy in fantasy football who only does well when he gets a couple touchdowns, but other than that, he doesn't really get many yards. So they kind of need more from that position. A second need for them is pass rusher. Obviously, you can never have too many pass rushers in this league, and even though they have a pretty good defense overall, getting another pass rusher really help that defense go over to the next level, I think.
Yeah, I think pass rusher is one of the most important positions on defense, and really with this loaded division they're in, they really need a guy that can take over the game and really close out a game in the fourth quarter when they need a stop.
Yep, and their last need, I'd say, is be cornerback, because their first-round pick really didn't play that much last year. William Jackson, he didn't really play that much last year.
Yeah, he ended up getting injured, and then they were expecting to bring him off IR, but they ended up choosing not to.
Yep.
So he didn't end up playing at all, actually.
And, Adam Jones is getting older.
Yeah.
And he's been having off-the-field issues recently in this offseason, so we'll see how that ends up going for them. But
and they also had Dre Kirkpatrick, who really hasn't living up to his draft selection hype yet. He had a decent season last year, so hopefully he could turn it around.
I don't think he's a long-term solution for them. So going into the offseason, they needed to get some more depth and maybe a starter really for that cornerback position.
Yeah.
While transitioning from their offseason needs, what were some of their departures to start off the offseason?
One of their biggest free agent departures was left tackle Andrew Whitworth. This guy was the best left tackle, in my opinion, in the league last year. He only gave up 1 sack. I mean, that's incredible.
I'll stick with Joe Thomas, because Joe Thomas is the man, and he's like the only thing good about Cleveland these days besides their basketball team. But Andrew Whitworth you're right, he was right up there, and it kind of made sense to let him go since he's, I think he's 35 going into his season, so he's kind of getting up there in age. But again, I mean, that's a huge loss for him, because he was a really good left tackle for them last year.
Yeah, and left tackle is one of the most important positions on offense. So it'll be
it's
interesting.
Probably the second most important position besides
after quarterback. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. Can the line hold up for Andy Dalton, losing him?
Speaking of the offensive line, they also lost their guard, Kevin Zittler.
Yeah, I mean, this guy is a great offensive guard, so that offensive line just lost two really big pieces.
They probably lost their 2 best offensive linemen.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
The season, so, I mean, we talked about in earlier videos, like the Packers, how losing guys in their offensive line was a big deal. This is even more of a big deal, because they don't really have anybody else in that line to really replace those guys or really make up for their absence.
Yeah, and they've already had such struggles running the ball, losing 2 of your best offensive linemen.
It's not going to help.
It's not going to help. So that was really shocking, especially Zittler. He ended up going to the Browns. Yeah. So he went to an in-division rival. That's going to hurt.
Yeah, I mean, now they have to play him twice a year, so
we'll
see how that goes for Bengals fans. Other departures they had, though, was Rex Burkhead at running back, who's kind of, that third down, situational back for them, and Damonte Pecco, offensive tackle, who's kind of been, a heart and soul type of player for them over the past couple of years.
Yeah, he's been there a while, and he's a very average player. He's a very good run stopper, and he's really good at just kind of eating up space, which is always important. Losing defensive line depth hurts a little bit. Burkhead, he was one of those running back by committee players they used last year. He showed some promise at times, but I don't know if he was really their guy, so I don't know if that'll hurt too much. They still haven't signed linebacker Ray Mulaluga, and he was a kind of a big contributor for them last year.
Yeah, he's been one of the starting linebackers. Again, a heart and soul type of guy for that defense.
Yeah.
So to kind of not have him signed yet, or to lose him going into the season, that could be a big deal for them. But again, they have guys like Vontaze Burfict that they kind of want to step up and be that leader for them. So that's probably what they want there going forward. But other than that, they really didn't have many, too big departures after those few guys.
Yeah, besides the offensive line, I mean, that's going to kill them.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to replace that.
That could be a season ender for them, if you ask me.
Because, I mean, those are 2 Pro Bowl type players.
Yeah, well, going from the departures who, we talk about the offensive line, that could be a big deal for them. But what were some of their additions that can maybe, help make up for the loss of those 2 players?
Well, they ended up adding Andre Smith and Eric Winston, two veteran guys that, you kind of know what you're going to get from them. They're very average, Obviously, they're not the same talent-wise as Whitworth and Ziegler, but, I mean, they're okay replacements. I think they should be able to hold their own.
Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening there. Eric Winston and Andre Smith, both are kind of older, getting injured a little bit, so we'll see if they can even stay healthy for an entire season.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they can, when they are healthy, they're pretty solid. And it'll help the offensive line for sure, but it's definitely a downgrade over what they had last year.
Yeah, and then another addition they ended up getting was Kevin Binter from Arizona. Yeah. I think, that was probably one of the reasons why they didn't sign Ray Muluga yet, is because, I mean, this guy's a guy that can play sideline to sideline, and they're kind of expecting him to really take over his Ray Muluga spot and even add more production at that position. I mean, he's a young linebacker, and he seems like he's going to be a pretty good fit for them.
Yeah, well, he adds more speed and athleticism to that linebacking core, which is that was very much needed because Ray Muluga is getting older, getting injured, getting a little bit slower. So add some athleticism there, especially in this division where you have guys like teams like the Pittsburgh Steelers like to throw the ball around a lot more. Mm-hmm. So to get speedy linebackers like that can go sideline to sideline and cover tight ends and running backs out of the backfield. That'll go a long way for that defense, I think.
Yeah, then their last addition is they re-signed Wallace Gilberry. He was a defensive lineman. Yep. He's a pretty good player at stopping the run. That's his specialty. And he's also just a really good depth guy and a guy you can bring as a rotational. Yep. When a guy needs a break, he's a good guy to have.
Yeah, and again, having too much depth on the defensive line is not a bad thing. So to keep him, that will go a long way, I think, for helping that defense.
Yeah.
Well, transitioning from free agency, what did they do in the draft that you liked and disliked?
Well, with the first-round pick, they took speedster John Ross. Yeah. I mean, this guy can run, man.
He can fly.
I mean, I think he's a perfect fit next to A.J. Green on the opposite side. He's a home run hitter player, and I think he's going to have a really good year for them. It's another weapon for Andy Dalton. Yep. That's kind of been their thing in the offenses. Besides A.J. Green, they haven't really had a consistent number 2 wide receiver. Yep. They've had Tyler Eifert, but he's had a lot of injury problems. So adding a dynamic player like this will be huge for them.
Yeah, like we said, they kind of need to replace guys like Marvin Jones and Mohamed Sanu, guys who've been really solid for them as their number 2 and number 3 wide receivers. So to get a guy like John Ross who can just flat out fly, I mean, that's going to take top off defenses for sure. And combined with A.J. Green, who's one of the top 5 wide receivers in the league, you have potentially a dynamic duo on your hands in Cincinnati at the wide receiver position.
And especially if Eifert can stay healthy. Yep. I mean, those 3 guys they're huge playmakers. Mm-hmm. That would make their offense so much better. And if you guys don't know who John Ross is, just a little information on him. Yep. He's just the guy that broke Chris Johnson's 40-yard dash record.
Nothing impressive there.
No big deal.
Yeah, no big deal.
Yeah, I mean.
Only around a 4.240.
Yeah.
I mean, people do that all the time, I guess.
Oh, yeah, totally.
So I could do that for sure.
But in the second round, the Bengals ended up taking running back Joe Mixon, and this was probably one of the most controversial players going into the draft.
Yeah, you said controversial, all right. I mean, that's well, the Bengals really haven't been shying away from controversial players in the past.
They got Adam Jones, Vontae Burfict. I mean,
Chad Ochocinco even going back further. Yeah. So I mean, they haven't been afraid to stick their neck out and try and get the most talented players out there. Yeah. If he can help the team, they're going to keep him around. And he has first-round talent. He was a guy that a lot of people thought might be the best running back in this draft class if it weren't for that unfortunate incident off the field. So, I mean, it's going to be a little bit of a circus, I think, early on with the media and stuff, and he might get some shade thrown at him from the fans. Mm-hmm. But if he can have the right mindset and really put that stuff behind him, and kind of like a la Michael Vick, who had his problems off the field problems in the past. Yeah. Kind of use that as motivation to be a better person off the field and bring it to the football field. He could be a really giant playmaker for them, especially for a team that needs a number 1 running back.
Yeah, to be fair, it really seems like he's trying to put his off-the-field issues behind him and move forward. I think, he's a guy that he's going to try to rebuild his image, but pure football point, I mean, this is a great pick for them. They really needed
might be a steal in the second round.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a guy that can come in. Gio Bernard's coming off the ACL injury. Jeremy Hill's been very disappointed, so I could see Joe Mixon kind of coming in. If he has a really strong training camp, being their lead guy going into the first week.
Yeah, I mean, again, they need some more playmaking out of the running back position, and he kind of offers it as a 3-down back as well.
Yeah.
So, in the third round, they also, help that pass rushing need a little bit by getting defensive end Jordan Willis. What can you say about him?
Man, I love this guy. I think this is a great pick for them because not only can he rush the passer, but he's really good at playing the run. Last year, in his senior year, he finished with 52 tackles, 17.5 tackles for a loss.
Yeah.
That just shows he's getting in the backfield, he's disrupting plays. I mean, he can do it all. He's an all-around defensive end, and he even had 11.5 sacks. So, I mean, I think this guy can really be a huge part of the defense.
Yeah, they gave him the third round. This is a really deep defensive draft class, like we've been saying. And they gave him the third round is obviously a huge steal for them. I'm not sure. I mean, he was projected going as high as the second round as I saw, so that was really good value for them in this draft. And he can kind of, complement Carlos Dunlap at that other defensive end spot. They needed more pass rushers over the past couple of years. Geno Atkins, more of an interior guy. So get someone else off that edge can really help that defense a lot.
The only thing really against him is his speed. He's not really the fastest guy. Doesn't have the best reaction time off the snap. But, I mean, he's 6'5". I mean, he's really big guy. I mean, having quarterbacks throw over him, he's a guy who can swap passes at the line. So I think that will be really helpful for them.
Yeah, the Bengals typically love their defensive ends to be taller. Carlos Dunlap 6'7". I think Marcus Hunter, other defensive ends, like 6'8".
Yeah.
So they're really adding some long, giant monsters to that defensive line. So you can kind of see the template of what they're going for on the defensive line.
Well, transitioning from the draft into training camp, what are some of the big storylines going into this offseason?
Well, the biggest storyline for the Bengals is obviously that offensive line. I mean, they lost 2 primetime performers on the offensive line with Andrew Whitworth and Zittler. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see if they can replace those guys. And honestly, I don't think they can. I think it's a huge loss for that offense, and that could really ruin their season, I think.
Yeah, I don't think they can either. And the thing is, a lot of people are saying, well, Whitworth is getting older. They didn't want to pay him the big money he wanted. But, I mean, he's probably arguably playing his best football ever.
No, I think so as
well. And
well.
playing an elite level, so losing an elite left tackle. It'll be interesting to see how it goes this year in the running game for them. And also, Andy Dalton is a guy who stays in the pocket, and when things break around him, he's not really known to making things happen when the play breaks down, when the pocket breaks down. And we're going to be seeing a lot more of that this year. So it'll be interesting to see how Andy Dalton gets used to that.
Yeah, I mean, they could be losing as much as a second off of that play clock for them to get big plays on the field.
Which you might not think is huge.
That's a huge deal in the NFL.
Huge.
In the NFL, that's the difference between a sack and a huge play or a touchdown.
Yes.
And with guys like John Ross and A.J. Green on the outside who kind of need to get down the field in order to be their most effective, I mean, that's a huge loss for them because those are easy touchdowns for them with those guys and their ability to kind of stretch the field.
Yeah, you gotta be able to give them time for their playmakers to get down the field. But another interesting story is, last year with their first round pick, they took William Jackson, and he ended up getting injured. So going into this year, it's still technically his rookie season because he didn't get a play, but they were obviously hoping to get a lot from him. He's very athletic, and they really needed a cornerback. So I mean, what do you think going into this year?
I think he'll step up this year. He's got all the abilities in the world to play cornerback.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just going into this year and maybe get a year to kind of, see how the NFL is going to work out for him, get this technique down, and kind of adjust to the speed of the NFL, I think that could go a long way. And if he can step up next to Adam Jones, because Adam Jones has been really good for them over the past few years and kind of resurrecting his career. So if he can kind of step up next to Adam Jones, that'll go a long way for that defense that's already pretty solid overall.
Yeah, I think he will make them even better. And they also got Dre Kirkpatrick, so he's not going to be pushed into the number 1 role right away. I think it's going to hurt that he didn't get a play last year because now he doesn't have that experience, and so he's still going to have to get used to the NFL speed of the game. And so kind of going, this year will be his rookie year. Next year will kind of be like the year I see him really making an impact.
Yeah, it's going to be an open competition too, probably. So it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds. I think William Jackson could win the job because Drake Kirkpatrick, like we said, hasn't really been that impressive in his career so far. But we'll see. I think he's got a lot of talent.
Definitely.
But if he can win that starting job and really be a playmaker for them, it goes a long way for that defense. But kind of sticking with that defense, we talked about signing Kevin Minter from the Arizona Cardinals. One storyline to look out for is, can he be that main guy and that leader for that defense?
Yeah, I think he can be. I think obviously they'd prefer Vontaze Burfict. he'll be their main leader, but I think Kevin Minter really needs to step up. You know, in Arizona, he didn't really have too big of a role because he had a lot of big pieces around him. So he was just kind of guy that he had to do his job and do it well, and they didn't really ask too much from him. But this year, he's going to have to step up into a bigger role. He's going to be asked to do a lot more. I think he can, just because he's very athletic and he's got
the ability to do it.
Very good instincts.
Yeah, he's got all the ability to be able to do that. We'll see if he can, really step up and be that leader for them. One thing that we can't really rely on for the Bengals is Vontaze Burfict. Can he stay on the field? Can he not be, doing dumb stuff on the field to get suspended?
Yeah.
And, he might have to step up and be that leader for them because Vontaze Burfict might not be on the field for them.
Yeah, with suspensions and even injuries. He said his own injury problems. I mean, I think Kevin Minter, in an increased playing role, I think you'll see his production step up. And I think he'll kind of be a younger guy on the rise that people will be like, oh, wow, he's really good. I've never heard of him before.
Yeah, you can really say that for that entire defense. Again, there's a lot of talent on this defense, a lot of talent on this team, but they just haven't really they didn't really put it together last year. But we'll see how they really transition to this year. They had a lot of key losses for them this year. But overall, I think there's some talent on this team, and we'll see how they go this year.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that they really need to focus on getting more turnovers. They got the talent to do it, but last year they didn't really force a lot of turnovers, which is the biggest thing a defense needs to do. But this year, if they could do that, they could kind of put themselves back on the map as one of the more elite defenses in the NFL.
Yep, for sure. Well, guys, thanks for watching the show today. We'll be doing the Cleveland Browns next, so keep a lookout for that.
Yeah, thank you for watching.